Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. My guest this morning is Mr. Francis Damina. Mr. Damina is a Senior Special Assistant Research and Documentation to the Kaduna State Governor. Good morning to you. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much, Uncle Yori. Thank you.
It's always our pleasure. Thank you very much. The conversation that is ongoing, the alleged genocide against Christians in Nigeria, perhaps as a result of our conversation, from your perspective, maybe we can sort of make sense out of it, because that is a thing that has been denied, certainly by the government, and there are those who are saying that this is a problem. If people are saying this, and you know what's been going on, there are the Senator Cruzes of this world over in America pushing the narrative that somehow Nigeria, is pointing a gun, so to speak, at its Christians. First of all, give me your understanding of, this quite distressing story, the alleged genocide against Christians.
Thank you so much, Uncle Yori. First of all, as a preface to this conversation, I must confess that issues of religion in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, are very delicate issues that many would love to shy away from. But the more we shy away from these issues, the more they hit us below the belt, the more they stare us in our faces, and so on. You could remember that at the centenary birthday celebration of posthumous celebration of the late Awolowo, our sage, the Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, made a presentation, and he said, the problem with Nigeria, religion is antithetical to our development. You could also remember that the late historian, Dr. Bala Usman, and quite a number of them from the Ahmadu Bello University axis, from elsewhere, even Olusegun Osogbo, and quite a number of them has spoken extensively about the role of religion in society. Mm-hmm. I must confess to you that this is the time to face the issues holistically and squarely, and also courageously. I make this point because for a very long time, religion has been a meal ticket for some people, especially the political class, to the detriment of the rest of society, and so on. But these things only thrive in societies where literacy level is so low. But to come back to this matter specifically, I would make the point that based on my credentials, that I'm a Christian from northern Nigeria, often referred to as minorities. And to make matters worse, I come from southern Kaduna, and even in southern Kaduna, as we used to say, we're a minority. That is the ethnic group nationality I come from. That is the Ikulu nationality. So back to your question now. I am a victim. I am a witness, and I think it is important that I tell my story.
Okay.
Even though there have been quite a lot of investigations, data presentation, mostly from without the country, but I think it is important that we ourselves tell our story, what is actually happening to us. What is missing in this whole conversation is a complete, holistic, comprehensive diagnosis of what the issues are, and then our inability to also define and to describe what the diseases are. We have often concentrated on the symptoms, leaving the disease deep down us without any seriousness from the intellectual class, particularly to tell us what actually is wrong with us. But I think it's time for us to tell our story. People have been talking about, of late, the issues of, the alleged issue of, that is genocide.
Yes, the alleged genocide against Christians.
Yes, alleged genocide against Christians, particularly in northern Nigeria. And since I'm a northerner, I can also tell my story, since, as I have said, I'm also a victim of some of these crimes. But to make the point, I think whatever name we may choose to call it or to describe the disaster that is about to consume us or that has been consuming us, it boils down to the fact that these crimes are committed against humanity, irrespective of the identities or the labels we attach to them. Because as I speak to you, I have no problem with the semantics, whatever anybody will say, that there is a genocide against Christians. Because a few weeks back, a number of people, my friends, highly placed, some of them from Zamfara, some of them from Sokoto, some of them from Niger, some of them from Katsina, called me to say that there appears to be a genocide against them. And I know that they are also Muslims. So we might choose to call it whatever name we want to. Christians might call it a genocide. The Muslims too are complaining of the same thing, that there is a genocide against them, because I cannot explain what is actually happening on a daily, almost on a daily basis in Katsina, in Sokoto, in Niger and other parts of northern Nigeria, resulting to the death of also many Muslims. And then sometimes this violence, these attacks are carried out at places of worship, like the mosques and other places of where people gather to worship, and so on. So the point there is that whatever name we elect or select or choose to call it, there is a crime, there is a violence against humanity in Nigeria.
Whatever. Okay, just before we continue, let me just say that before your current appointment, because I introduced you as the Senior Special Assistant Research and Documentation to the Kaduna State Governor, you were known in, how does one put it, shall I call it journalistic circles, especially with the specialization of faith, especially the Christian faith. So in case anybody is just joining us now, and he says, but what is that Oga of research and documentation? What's he doing on a subject matter like this? One of the reasons why we wanted to speak was that you are, if I say so myself, a known voice when it comes to these kind of conversations. Is there anything in there that I said that is amiss and that you want to correct?
Not really. Prior to my appointment as a senior special assistant to the indefatigable governor of Kaduna State, Senator Dr. Obasani, I was on the street within journalistic cycles, making noise about marginalization, yes, about how we were treated, and so on and so forth. But it is even important to make the point that, as I said to you, I am also a victim of this violence.
Indeed.
Whatever name we choose to call it, because at least my mother was kidnapped, they came again, and the stories are funny as they are scary. So but the point is that in the last 2 years, for some of us Christians in northern Nigeria, the body language of the president has demonstrated to these killers to tolerate them, which is why we have reflexes of hope around us, which is why if you had read the testimony, the submissions of Bishop Kuka in Rome recently, you could see that there appears to be a seeming contradiction with his position during the Buhari regime. Because what our understanding is that those strong institutions matter, but also strong men matter as well. If you go to Kaduna now, for instance, because of the activities of the governor, I think the last time I was here, we spoke about the Kaduna peace model because of justice, because he's disposed to addressing these issues. Kaduna is peaceful. And then we are not talking about some of these things that we had earlier raised or that we are talking about 2 or 3 years ago and so on. So the point there is that there is a change in status quo. If you ask any northern Christian now whether he feels comfortable comparatively between the regime of the late President Buhari and now under President Tinubu, he will tell you that despite the fact that we have a Muslim, we had a Muslim ticket, but we are now more comfortable than we were yesterday, and so on. So I think that is just the point.
You know, well, I was going to go there, especially when you said at the top of the program that you yourself speaking, you could be called a victim of these disturbances that go on. If your beloved mother was actually kidnapped, apparently for no more reason than being a Christian, was that established, or were these just, you know, bandit attacks where the collateral damage coincidentally involved Christians and other people?
From my testimony, from what I saw in my village, as I said to you, the stories are sometimes funny. She wasn't kidnapped because she's a Christian, because I can also tell you a number of Fulanis from my village who were equally kidnapped, who suffered this violence and so on. That is why I'm finding it difficult to find a name, to give a name to what we should call this violence, whether we should call it a genocide against Christians or a genocide against humanity. Because should we say there is a genocide against Christians, then we have to be able to tell the world what is happening in Katsina, whether it can be called or it qualifies for a genocide, what is happening in Niger, what is happening in Zamfara, what is happening elsewhere in Sokoto and other parts of northern Nigeria. And I think the important thing there is that irrespective of the identities we attach to these things, irrespective of the labels, the coloration we give to them, what is important is that there is a crime against humanity and not just against people who are Christians. Indeed. Because I make the point that recently back in my village, a Fulani man who is called Wakilin Fulani, that is an emissary, a representative of the Fulani in the traditional council. He represents the Fulani people. He's a graduate of the Usman Danfodio University, has been kidnapped for, I think, over 2 months now, and then they have been demanding for, I think, well over 10 million naira. And this is somebody who represents the Fulani. So I find it very troubling when people give labels to this violence, to this what is happening by seeing it from the prism of religion, identity, to say that it is ethnic, or to say that it is religious. It is far away from that. Okay. If you ask me again, yes, because to my mind,
I beg your pardon,
as a
sir.
Victim
I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Indeed, I will let you continue your story. But Ade has called in from the UK. Good morning, Mr. Ade.
Good morning, Mr. Yori, and good morning to your guest.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
How good? When Basani come, everything.
Mr. Ade, I'm so sorry. If you could have heard it, the audio is nothing to really talk about. We couldn't hear you. You know, the telephone sort of muffled and distorted your voice such that we couldn't make out anything you were saying. If you would be good enough to try again, we would really appreciate that. So thank you very much, Mr. Ade, calling in from the UK. Okay, thank you very much. You were, to come back to you, you were narrating, you know, part of your experience, Francis. So if you had finished there, or because if you had finished there, okay, but if not, I wanted to sort of bring up the fact that the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, the nationally known Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, he has actually been urging the United States to take it easy and not go and designate us, that is the country, as a country of particular concern. The bishop said that you do that, you're going to be, you know, interfering, maybe even sabotaging, no matter how unintentionally, sabotaging efforts to promote dialogue and national healing. I'm sure you are very, very aware of that because Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka happens to be a mentor of yours. Okay, exactly. I just heard, sorry sir, I just heard that our Mr. Ade in the UK is back. So I'll come right to you as soon as he is through. Go ahead, Mr. Ade, thank you for trying again.
Okay, good morning to your guest.
Yes.
I disagree with genocide. I don't believe there's any genocide anywhere. And it's not to this matter. So, in the previous government of Kaduna, look at the way they are killing the southern Kaduna. Now everything went quiet. Nothing is happening again. Ibasani got there with his good leadership. Everybody is living at peace. We have never had one day that they were killed. Why were they killing them before? There should be probe to the leadership of the previous government. That's number one. Number two, what we are suffering in Nigeria is the herders and what do you call them? Farmers. That is what is causing problems. The DSS now allows us in Ondo State that ASWAP is coming to Ondo State. Does ASWAP know Christian or Muslim? No. These are criminals. And the Nigeria head of state told us that they know the name, they will reveal their name. The Nigeria Republic head of state. You see? Which means to go after the leaders, people. Person can come to and be a governor and there's peace. That means it's a leadership. So they should probe all these people.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ade. We really do appreciate the effort you made to call back in again. It was slightly better because we could make sense out of what you were saying this time. The long and short of which I believe is that you said there is no, there's no genocide going on anywhere. It's something else. We'll continue the program. So back to you, Mr. Damina. You were going to, comment on Bishop Kuka's, statement to the U.S. to not label the country or designate the country as one of particular concern, because there are efforts, ongoing efforts at improving dialogue and that kind of a thing. Talk to me about that, please.
Okay, Nkuyori. I think we share the same experience with the bishop, since we come from the same place and then the same circumstances and context. We saw it during the regime of our late President Muhammadu Buhari. We actually saw hell. When you go back, that is why I don't believe in resorting to data from international community, from people who have insular interest, and members of the academia, and so on and so forth. When you go to these communities, interview the people, you will get to know their experiences. There was a time, a village ahead of mine, somebody was kidnapped. You would think that this is an issue for the theater. Somebody was kidnapped because there was an info that he has close to 1 million naira. The kidnappers took him away, and then his family they demanded a ransom of 1 million naira. So at the end of the day, they were able to raise only 700,000 naira. So they were agreeable with the kidnappers. The kidnappers said, we're going to release him, but after some times, make sure that you raise the balance, call us, and then we'll give you an account or we'll tell you where you will remit the balance to. Like Jock, he was released after the payment of 700,000 naira. 3 months later, it was preparation for the rainy season. He was able to raise some money, went to the market, purchased some bags of fertilizer, came back home, and then it got to the kidnappers that the man has some money now, to the extent that he went to the market to buy some bags of fertilizer. They immediately called him and reminded him that there is a balance of 300,000 naira. So on a good day, he went to his farm, and then they picked him again. And then they started shouting at him, you know that you are owing us, and yet you went to the market to buy fertilizer, and so on. So they didn't release him until when the family was able to settle the 300,000 naira to the kidnappers.
No wonder you said it
Yes.
was resembling a theater, as if it was a theater program. Can you believe what we've just heard you share with us? Can you just believe that? Oh, well. Please continue.
That is true. As I'm talking to you, yesterday somebody called me from my village to say that they have been calling him since Friday, asking for 100,000 naira, but that he should send them, they send an account number, that he should send them 10,000 naira to buy the charge card first. Later on, he can settle them, and otherwise he will be in for it, and so on. So the stories are everywhere.
So these are extortions. These are stories of extortion going on.
Yes. Yes. Yes, but it could be interpreted so, but when you refuse to adhere to their admonitions, that is when you will know that there is no difference between extortion and the violence that we see almost on a daily basis, because they will actually come for you with their AK-47, and then they will take you away, and that is when you'll be required to pay millions of naira and so on. We have people who are taken, and then you have to provide motorcycles, you have to pay money, and so on and so forth. So the stories appear funny, as you may think, but for us, we know what we underwent, and then we can compare between yesterday and today. So back to your question on Bishop Kuka. Bishop Kuka is a human being. He saw yesterday, and he's still living in today. So, which is to make the point that we have seen a reasonable commitment on the part of government to ending this violence, because whether you like it or not, whatever name you may choose to call this violence, whether you call it genocide against humanity, farmer had problems, genocide against Muslims, or Fulani, Hausa Rift, or whatever, what is important to us is that this problem has thrived because of our justice system. There has not been a clear-cut commitment to punishing criminals, whatever name or religion they answer to, and that is what is important to us. Our justice system seems to favor murderers, and then it is harsh on petty criminals. You see somebody in prison because he stole his neighbor's goat, he stole his neighbor's chicken or whatever. But there are people who are roaming around freely, who are responsible for the killing of a whole community, who are responsible for kidnapping, and so on and so forth. I think the other time, the Chief of Defense Staff himself came out to say they have a problem with their judiciary, because today you take somebody there, tomorrow he is released on bail, and so on. So that is largely a problem. But all of us, Bishop Kuka inclusive, can see the commitment on the part of President Tinubu, which we very much appreciate. Go back to our villages now. We were afraid during this rainy season, but now it has come and gone. There is peace in our communities. You could see the commitment on the part of the federal government. You could see the commitment on the part of the soldiers. You could see the commitment on the part of the governor. You could see the commitment, especially on the part of my local government chairman. He's everywhere. Okay. Once it is mentioned that...
I beg your pardon, sir. Yet again, thank God that it's not today we knew each other. You are aware of how the program is structured. Okay.
Uncle Yori, so I think so far, we are agreed that, number one, whatever the semantics, whatever the nomenclature, it doesn't really matter. What we, the victims, are saying is that we need a circumstance, we need a system, we need a justice system in Nigeria that punishes criminals, whether they are Muslims, whether they are Christians, or whatever labels are given to them is non-essential, is not important to us. Because for the many times that priests were kidnapped, at the end of the day, it will be at the end of the day, you find out that those who are behind their kidnap are either their cooks or members of the parish council, members of the church, and so on and so forth. So every ethnic group, every religion has a representative in this tournament of violence. And then we cannot claim that a particular tribe or members of a particular religion are the referees and are also the players, and so on. So all of us are involved directly or indirectly in one way or the other. Because what is troubling to me is that the Muslims are all equally complaining of a genocide against them. Christians are complaining of a genocide against them. At the ethnic level, the Hausa people are also complaining that there is an ongoing genocide against them in Zamfara, in Katsina, in Sokoto, and elsewhere. So we are not bothered about the name given to it. The first thing is that we will want to see on ground is a punishment mechanism, a justice system that punishes criminals irrespective of their name, their identity, their religion, their tribe, or whatsoever. By the time we have that on ground, then we will know that we are moving forward.
Indeed, you're so very correct. But what do you think is going on? Because oftentimes we hear these stories, and I think you've alluded to it yourself this morning, justice is hardly seen to be done. Whereas the law has its own ways and its own quirks. But the ordinary person who is not quote-unquote learned just doesn't see the fairness of it all. So what do you think is responsible for this almost lackadaisical attitude? Because even the police force itself is made up of different sorts of people, both Christians and Muslims and Fulanis and non-Fulanis. But this whole matter about, as you said, the justice system has been fingered. It is making life, whereas it is making life unbearable for the victims, when you look at the perpetrators of this violence, they're laughing their heads off. They are controlling, as it were, the whole scenario. Imagine that story that you told us, that if it wasn't, for true, it sounded almost comical. They couldn't pay everything. They paid 700,000 out of ₦1 million ransom, and actually were calling to, remind people that you still owe us 300,000. So, and this is not a thing that you could take to the police, or that people could take to the police and say, come and see what is happening. What do you think is going on there? Because as you said, President Tinubu, he is actually making a difference, and you have seen a difference. I'm speaking about people in those environments. They have actually seen a difference between what is obtaining perhaps now and going back to the last regime and earlier.
Yes, Onkuyori. There are many comical stories. In fact, I think 4 months ago, 2 ladies were kidnapped from my village, and then they were taken elsewhere. So it was before the Salah celebration, and then the kidnappers were to go to their various posts for the Salah celebration, since they had 2 victims. So what they did was that the kidnappers from Niger State took one of the victims with them, and those from Katsina took the other victim, believing that when ransom is paid, they will use the money for Salah and so on. But thank God that these victims are back. But the story they told us was that they actually saw one of our brothers who brought the kidnappers. The kidnapping took place in his presence. They went away with him by foot, and when they got to a point where there was no money, the kidnappers requested that he should take their ATM and then help them to get ₦1 million from the POS or from the bank. Unfortunately, when he took the ATM card, he never came back. So the kidnappers are currently looking for him, and we are also looking for him, our brother. It may sound comical, but that is what is obtainable almost on a daily basis. We don't know where he is.
It is not a laughing matter.
But
this is a very, very serious matter. It's not a laughing matter at all. But as you said, you hear of these ridiculous kind of stories. But if you were to try and touch on the point of, we can't accuse the police of bias. Hopefully, surely we can't. So why is it that easy for these criminals, actually, in the very, very first instance? Why is it that easy for them to carry on the way they are carrying on? What are your...
Yeah, there are Uncle Yori, there are many ungoverned spaces in Nigeria.
Okay, okay.
There are many ungoverned spaces. Yes, you don't see the presence of security agents in many of our villages. You can walk well over 20 to 30 kilometers. There is no police station, there is no vigilante, and so on. And now, one person with AK-47 can control over 100 people, and so on. So you can't fight back, you can't resist them. Sometimes they just come to you to say, okay, please, let's go. And then you follow them. There is no resistance to it, and so on and so forth. So, and you may have noticed that in many of our rural areas, the youth population is absent. Many of them are in the cities looking for greener pastures. Assuming everyone was to be at home, we can say that to an extent we can resist these criminals. Yeah. And so on. But most of those you find in the rural areas are people who have come of age. They are in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. So they are vulnerable to these crimes and criminals. And whenever the kidnappers come around, there is very little they can do to resist them. And sometimes it is even better to pay the ransom and then to live in peace, because I recall when my mother was kidnapped, I was talking to them. They will call me, they will ask me, how is your brother Joshua? How is Friday? How is Jemima? How is I will say they are all fine. They will tell me, we went to the market. I said that your mother is not fortunate. That your brother, we saw him in the market. He's not even bothered that we picked your mother. He's not making effort to raise money to pay ransom. We saw him in the beer parlor over a bottle of Goldbeck and so on and so forth. That he's not a serious person. And so I said, sorry, please, we are working hand in gloves to make sure that we raise this money for you and so on and so forth. But the truth of the matter is that with the coming of this government, there is a change in status quo, which is to make the point that the body language of a president, a governor, a local government chairman, any chief executive that is saddled with the trust of looking after the security, the lives and properties of the people matters a lot. If you go to Zangon Kataf is a notorious place in the totality of southern Kaduna, as it were long before now. On a daily basis, you hear stories of not only kidnapping, but violence, 30 people, 20 people, 10 people, and then it's like a return match of a thing. They come to us today, tomorrow we prepare to go to them, and so on, in their own amphitheater where we'll play the match of plot-letting and so on and so forth. But since this young man, the local government chairman, Engineer Bege Joseph Gaya, came on board, the whole thing changed, because number one, he's a young man, and then he has demonstrated in this last 1 year that he's not ready to tolerate any nonsense. Any case that comes to the police or goes to the court, he will make sure that he follows it up to make sure that these criminals are punished. And I'm sure that he has learned this thing from His Excellency Governor Obasani, who has sent a signal across the state by his own ways of doing things, that there will be justice, and that he will not tolerate any reflexes of violence from any quarter, irrespective of who the person is and what religion or ethnicity he answers to. So okay. I think those who are in power must always try to demonstrate that they are for all and they are for nobody, as
exactly.
our former and late president said to us.
Okay, one moment. Mazi Okoroafo, good morning, sir.
Good morning, this issue of genocide, we have to sit down, all of us.
The question of whether there is indeed genocide, whether there actually is genocide or not?
There is people against the massively. That is a massacre. I've not seen that one. There is no content in the whole world. We don't have problem. Now, when we talk about, the president talk about Nigeria genocide. What is happening in Gaza? What's happening with Hamas? What's happening in Pakistan? What is happening in Afghanistan and Pakistan? What is this happening? The problem we have this issue of our social media. The social media has created a lot of problems. So when you see that somebody will come and say, where there is a motor accident, instead of you to help, save life, you start something to brain and start posting, starting something, making the people who are seeing it with that
okay. Mazi, I beg your pardon, Mazi. The quality, and first, let me also apologize to our viewers. The quality of those calls coming in leave a lot to be desired. We're so sorry about that. We are working on it. If it's something that we can sort out from here, but if it's within the telephony system, I guess not all days are equal or similar in terms of signal reception. Okay, so Francis, I wonder, from what we've been talking about, there is clear criminality. No way you can escape that. But whether that's the same as being able to say, and that's why I understand when you said you actually have a difficulty, if you want to go the semantic route about whether you want to call it genocide or anything like that. The important thing is that it needs to stop. We are hurting, we are losing. But is it genocide properly defined? Genocide involves wanting to stamp out. Nobody can stamp out Christianity in Nigeria. Nobody can stamp out Islam in Nigeria. So to think so is foolhardy. And that's probably where people are coming from, that there is nowhere in this country, no normal, sphere of thought where genocide is a thing. You can't, genocide properly defined, it's not so. That's what we are hearing. But you see, that is not to belittle or reduce the anguish that people are feeling. That cannot be done. But genocide, and that's why probably, Bishop Kuka was saying that it wasn't helpful at all the way they were carrying on in the U.S. Well, he didn't say carrying on, but you know what I mean. That maybe carrying on could be seen to be a bit rude in this context. But Bishop Kuka had said that you go along the lines of trying to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern. It's not going to be helpful, and you don't know all the facts. That Senator Cruz, distinguished Senator Cruz over there, he doesn't know the lie of the ground. He doesn't know, he doesn't have a good idea of what you've been sharing with us. But there are people who are talking to him, and indeed some government officials have made the case that there are some people who are bent on painting Nigeria black for whatever reason in the West.
Yes, that is true, Uncle Yori. I don't even know why we always run to the U.S. as if the U.S. is a moral watchdog. We tell our problems to the U.S. If there is genocide in Nigeria, or whatever name they choose to call it, what is happening in Gaza? What is happening in other parts of the world, and so on and so forth. So the point there is that we must make a mistake. Africa must make mistakes. Nigeria must continue to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes and then correct ourselves.
Okay.
That is the way to nationhood. Secondly, most of the narratives about genocide are not coming from the victims. They are from the outside. And I don't think anybody could cry more than the bereaved. I think that is what we, the victims, are saying.
Okay,
We
one moment, sir.
story,
Let me bring
then,
on this
yes.
other... sorry. Let me bring on this other guest, Dr. Durosimi, retired AIG, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. If I guess right, we're talking about genocide in Nigeria.
The alleged genocide.
Yes, there is nothing like that. And what matters is that we Nigerians will be very careful about the way we report incidents in Nigeria. For instance, look at what's happening in Katsina State. Katsina State is about 90% Muslims. So still there are people being killed at one time or the other. Genocide, as I know, has to be government involvement. But in Nigeria, criminals are the ones carrying out the killing and the kidnapping. The criminals don't, they could be Christian, they could be Muslims. They don't care about religion when it comes to killing. Rather, and our cooks, the drivers, and the house, people in the house are the ones giving information to criminals. Most times when they even report this issue to police, they're discussing that thing when they are hearing. And when they are hearing, they'll be giving back the people who are in the bush. In Nigeria, there's no genocide. I can say that categorically. There's no government involvement, and there's no group of people saying they're after Christian or they're after Muslim. As Christians are dying, Muslims are dying. What we need is to reinforce our security, ensure that the police is properly funded and properly trained, so that with technology, we can actually get to these criminals before they strike. That is my contribution.
No, thank you, Dr. Durosimi. Okay, Mr. Damina, that's a viewer comment there. It's along the lines we've been talking about that, look, it might be convenient for some people to call it, genocide. That's why we're talking about alleged genocide. But there are people who are not being dismissive when they say that there is no genocide in Nigeria. That's not dismissiveness. That's the truth. And you yourself, you've been very discreet and careful how you express these things, that whereas you're not rubbishing the whole notion, but the thing is, it's a semantic thing. In fact, you introduced the word semantics into our program because violence is happening, and but it hasn't been established that it is exclusively unleashed on Christians, or for that matter, Muslims. You yourself have given us indications of, the difficulty in trying to understand this. Well, we've almost run out of time, so I'd like to thank you very much for the insight you've also given to this whole matter. And also, you were able to share with us, and we thank you very much for that, a personal story about how these things go on. And you've also said that this administration, especially President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there has been a difference, and people appreciate it. But the work must continue, seems to be the point you are making. We must continue. Okay, we're going to have to leave it here now. I think it froze there, but our guest was Francis Damina, Senior Special Assistant Research and Documentation to the Kaduna State Governor, Uba Sani. Thank you once more, in case you can now hear us, Mr. Damina. Thank you very much for coming on the program.